Are you utilizing the solution? Are you following the plan? Are you following any plan? What are you doing to better yourself? What are you doing to better our whole situation? If you don't know, then maybe you need to answer that. What I do is try to follow my own advice when it comes down to following the solution, create different options that I would figure out as I go along the process. Now, I don't always utilize the glimpse state for the uh, to follow taking the energy back. I try to delve into other states to try to see if it's just as beneficial so that I can do it in a more, I would say, a more beneficial state for it. One that I'm easily able to enter. Sometimes, just like most other people, I can access a state pretty often, and then other times it's more difficult to do that. And so, what I'll do is I'll find something that is more easily available and I'll make use of that. And then, if it becomes a little difficult, then I'll utilize another state. Let me give you an example. Now, you don't necessarily need to be in the hypnagogic state. What you can utilize is, and I've done this many times, is you go to bed, and I'm not the type of person that falls asleep right away. But what I do is I begin to visualize at that point. I close my eyes at that point, and I begin to visualize um, different methodologies that I could think of to um, to to bring back or take back our power. Now, I don't necessarily have to visualize another being or any type of a being. I can visualize pulling energy back from our environment, from Earth, from the sun, from other planets, anything within our environment, because it's all energy based. It's all part of our situation, it's all part of our trap, and it all requires energy in order to function, just like all of us. So it's all energy. So we can pull back energy from anything that's related to the physical or non physical. So you don't necessarily have to be in any specific glimpse state or hypnagogic state. You can do it from any state as long as you have the ability to visualize and focus. Once you can do that, it kind of takes on um, a mind of its own in a way. As you begin to get into what you're doing, you have other ideas on how to do it. And then what you'll do is you'll kind of follow that. And from there, it begins to branch off. It's like going on your own path. You start to go down this path and you get kind of an idea and you go this way. And then maybe you're still kind of going this way. So you're basically covering multiple directions simultaneously because you're doing more than one thing at a time. And then maybe duplicate yourself or duplicate your abilities within that scenario and you can do more work with less energy or less focus on it. So what we're doing is we're just allowing ourselves to be creative and using our imagination to work with ourselves within that non-physical space. Now, when you're in it, you're really focused and it's almost like as you're in that state, that's kind of all that matters at that time. I mean, if you stop and to think consciously think about it, you're laying in bed, but once you get into it, it's almost like you're there and you're in that situation and you're following the lead of what the ideas that you've gotten and you're just going into it. You're kind of that's you at that moment. You're in the present and you're following through on what you decided that path to follow. So you're doing that. Being creative. And what I try to do is try to begin maybe similar to the last time that I had done it the night before or the morning before. And then I'll try to always build upon that, build upon the idea of strengthening my abilities and expanding on how to make it better or how to do things in a different way. And if it doesn't work, then I just default back to another way that I've done it before, or I'll just keep building upon that. And that's how you're going to learn. And that's how you're going to become comfortable within that situation. And once you've done it enough times, then you realize, hey, this is second nature for me. It feels just as comfortable to do it within that state as it does within your daily life. But then you're not required to follow the same rules and directions that you have to in your daily physical life. So you are in full control. You can do whatever you choose at this point. So you don't have the limitations. And you begin to understand that you are really not limited, but you are limited in the physical based upon your ideas and those rules that you choose to follow within our physical lives. So when you get into this state, you don't have those rules and those things holding you back. So you're 100% you at that point. And you can do and choose to do whatever you'd like in that situation. So this is all about understanding that you are more than what you see on a daily basis, or you are more than what you experience on a daily basis. And you have the ability to utilize that imagination or your creativity on a whole nother level beyond what you ever thought about. Even if you're a painter or a writer, this gives you another place to express your understanding and your creativity. But it also teaches you about yourself and what you're capable of. It gives you a little insight, a little window opens up so that you can see what you have available. And as you work in there, then you're also expanding yourself in other ways that you probably won't understand. And then it's basically helping you along your path. So it's not only you following through on what you choose to do in order to get us out of the situation, but you're also deprogramming and teaching yourself something on another level, which is more natural for us. Since we are non physical beings, um, it's good to step out of the reality of the physical so that we can begin to see things from a different perspective. And once you see things from a different perspective, then you be able to understand and expand your capabilities and expand your imaginative skills. Because if you always lived within this box, you're most likely not going to have a lot of imagination that expands beyond that because you've been confined for so long. But once you get out, would say, into the world or get out of this world, then you have allowed yourself the ability to convince yourself that there is much more. Now, saying that you know something and actually knowing something is really two different things, because you can you can say, well, yeah, I know that. But that does that mean you really understand it? Or do you really know that because you just say you do? But sometimes you need to hear things, and I've said this before, a lot of times before it finally rings true or the bell rings and you go, wow, I've heard that so many times, and finally I just know what it means. Because you can say that I understand that I'm in a manipulative relationship, or you can say that I know I'm being manipulated at work or whatever, but that doesn't mean you really understand it. It's just that you know to say that because you understand that that's what's happening at a certain level. But until you really know it, until it really sinks in, it just doesn't count because um, it's not within your understanding. So it's kind of hard to explain some things with mere words in order to get them across. But you will definitely know when you've been in that situation where it finally sunk in, it finally hit you, and then you'll know, okay, now I have an example from which I can draw on to in order to understand when somebody says this. So I have something to compare that to and say, well, I might say that I understand this, but it's never really hit me like this other thing did. So now, um, when it happens, I'll know. But until it happens, I really don't know. So I need to work on that. And there's no real secret for somebody to say, oh, well, I can tell you how for it to really sink in. No, usually you have to either experience something or have experienced something at some point, and then eventually it finally works its way in. Or you really try to get that point across to yourself, but there's no tried and true method to get that to uh, just really hit the mark just by your own intention. So this is where we are. This is where I am right now. I'm going to continue to work on the plan, the solution. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I made a video called The Solution back in December of 24. And then I followed up maybe a month or two ago with a video called The Plan, which is kind of a better explanation of the solution video, which bases itself on taking our energy back from the system that is entrapping us. We're actually supplying the power for our own prison. So that's the situation that we're currently in, and the videos go more in depth with that so that you can understand a little bit more about what's going on. And my other videos on this channel also support the whole idea behind what's going on and how we can step out of the game of life, the manipulative illusionary game that we all um, have accepted so well within our lives because we've been programmed for it. As with anything, if you've got questions or comments, put them in the comment section and I will definitely get back to you.